Welcome to Independent Venue Week. I'm Simone Marie, and I'm going to be chatting to some key figureheads in the music industry about independent venues, their journey, and their musical career. And I hope you enjoy them. Welcome back to the Independent Venue Week Take 5 interviews. And I'm joined by the extremely wonderful Skin. Hello.
Hi there, how are you?
Oh, I'm okay. It's so lovely to chat to you. Thank you for doing this. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. I mean, I think I'm kind of the same as everybody else, you know, kind of like getting to another January, over it, over COVID, over lockdown. I'm wishing it had been done properly so we wouldn't be in this position, but we have the government we have, so. Yeah, I mean, I think the first 2 weeks of January were probably the hardest part of my lockdown because I was feeling extremely unmotivated.
Yeah.
And, you know, just looking at another year of maybe cancellations and stuff like that. So I was a bit like, oh, God, because to do another year like last year. But now I kind of like kicked myself in the ass and I'm actually just building a little bit of a home studio so I can just be a lot more creative at home. I'm one of those musicians, like, I don't really like to be like the engineer. I like to be the person in the back of the room explaining and saying ideas and having millions of ideas and having somebody really fast do all my ideas. So now I've kind of like, and you know what? I'm just going to do it myself. It's not hard.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I mean, like, you seem like the kind of person who's like into, you were just saying before, like, you don't mind getting involved in the tech side of stuff. And I guess all of the restrictions have made us way more dependent on technology, you know.
I mean, I think so. I mean, I think that the thing about musicians is that we get creative with what we've got. So if we've only got a piece of wood and a bit of string, we'll make a guitar out of it. You know, it's in whatever country we are. I mean, we're very good at adapting, very good at creating, very good at working with what we have, really good at working in very crappy, dire situations. You know, I think that if I think about those early years of being in a band and the gear that we had and the clothes that we had and all that stuff we had, we still managed to be an amazing band. So I'm a strong believer in you don't need much. You know, you just need the will and the drive and the ambition to do it. You don't need everything expensive. You don't need anything fancy. So I think those skills have been like that for the last 30 years. Have really kind of come into full force. I mean, I've been looking at computer screens since, you know, Logic and oh God, what's the other one? Pro Tools has been invented. So I started learning software myself, and it's like, I know that all this works. It's actually really quite easy, having had the amount of experience I've had watching it. So I think that I think if you have a technical mind or DIY mind, I've been doing lots of DIY. I've been putting shelves up, I've been putting hooks up, I've been doing lots of stuff. You know what I mean? So it's like, do it yourself. I think it's that mentality of like, you know what, just do it yourself. And it's actually kind of fun doing all that. I think it's about silver linings, you know. It's like, you know, getting all upset and depressed about it, it's a very easy thing for people to fall into, and more me to fall into. I can be like a bit morose. And then I just give myself a kick up the bum and say, okay, well, it's down to you. What are you going to do about it? You know, you can't fix the world. You can't make the world not have COVID. So what are you going to go do about your personal situation to make it better? So that's my attitude. So yeah, I'm learning software. I've been doing lots of DIY. I have about 5 projects that I've got on my wall. My wall is covered in Post-it notes. So I've got about 5 projects that I'm going to do. So it's just getting, you know, having the motivation and the thing to kind of just start doing it. Just do it.
I mean, now did you feel like I feel like, well, I never took playing live for granted, but now we can't do it. It's made me look at lots of other options and lots of other things. Do you feel the same? Are you kind of starting other sort of projects and just trying to do as much as you can that isn't live until that comes back?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, you know, Skunk Anansie been around for over 20. I mean, I've been playing live for over 30 years now. Yeah. So Skunk Anansie's been 25, 26 years, 27 actually would have been, you know, 2 dead years. But but so I'm in a very different position than like, I mean, I clearly remember what it was like being a band starting off. So I think we're in a very different position. We're in a position where we can't tour all the time because our tours are so big and our gigs are so big that you kind of have to give people a bit of starvers anyway, you know. So we're kind of set up to tour a year and a half, 2 years, and then we take 2 years or 3 years to make another album and do other projects and whatever. In the early years, I think we toured solidly for 7 years straight in those early years, and that's what you do when you're building up. That's what you do when you're building up a career, you know. So I think, you know, we're in quite a different position, and we've been doing that for the last 10 years. Where we'll, you know, when you do really big gigs, you can't do them every year. You have to kind of do them every 2 or every 3 years, I would say, as a band of our size. So we're kind of set up to do that. We know, I think one thing I always say to bands, the one thing we did in the very early years of our career is that we pay ourselves wages. We don't, when we tour, that money goes into a kitty that is there to make another record and pay ourselves wages. Because the way that financial institutions are set up, you know, you have to pay mortgage, you have to prove that you've got regular money coming in each month. So we've been doing that since 1994. So, you know, it means when we tour, we just put that money into wages, and we put that money to make another record, and we have it sitting there ready. We don't just go off and spend it, buy a nice flash car or something.
No, it's definitely the way to do it. I mean, what was it? I mean, you were one of the biggest bands, and you're still huge, Skunk Anansie, like from all of the 90s and the 2000s. What was it like being in the midst of that at that time? Like, do you feel like it's sort of the whole industry has changed an awful lot since then, or it's kind of
I think that the whole industry's completely changed. It does, though. That's what the music industry does, you know. I mean, when we were in the 90s, we were harking back on all the bands that we loved, were 70s bands, you know. And then in the 70s bands, what they dealt with to what we were dealing with in the 90s were completely different. 70s bands were harking back to the 50s bands, you know, their blues and early rock and roll and Elvis Presley, whatever. And that was a completely different thing. So it does change. The music industry has to keep ebbing and flowing and changing to reflect the ways that people consume music, you know. So we've been kind of through that changes. I mean, in those early days, my job as a lead singer of a band was to write the music, sing the music, like record the music, and then sing the music live. And everything else I had a hand in, but it's kind of done for us. There were like 3 people in the record company whose job it was just to book flights. That's
amazing, isn't it? Like,
right? You know, there was like the record company. The record company was like, it was 20 people that worked in the record company with about 50 bands. And now we go to record companies, it's lucky if you've got 2 or 3. If it's a big record company. But you know, we had 20 people, 3 people just booking flights, another one just booking rehearsal rooms. We had 2 or 3 A&R people. We had all the kind of hierarchy of the record company. That's gone. So the difference I would say now is, I used to sing music, record the music, and sing it live. Now my job in Skunk Anansie is I'm the director of the brand, the company of Skunk Anansie, and between the 4 of us and our manager 5 and her assistant, so let's say 5 of us, 6, we do everything. So we write, record, organize the music, flights, booking, sorry, phone's going off. Alarm, so it's alarm going off. I'll say that again. So like now our job is like, you know, we're the brand of Skunk Anansie, and we book everything from flights, rehearsal rooms, producers, talk to producers, organize our production, hiring tour managers. We do absolutely everything between the 6 of us, you know, our 5 of us and our wonderful, amazing PR assistant that we have. We just do everything ourselves. All our social media, we do absolutely everything ourselves. And we're a record company, we're a record label. And that's the main difference. And in some ways, I think that's better, because I think that what the internet has done is it's given bands back their power over what they do, and given them their power over their artistry. And you don't make as much money in terms of selling records or selling CDs, but you make money in other ways. You know, you've got your merchandising, you've got your live, you've got direct ways to kind of talk to people on social media. So I think the thing about social media, people kind of slag it off and like, but whatever you do in life, if you use it for good, that's what you're going to get out of it. If you use it for bad, that's what you're going to get out of it. Because there's always whatever. I mean, I've got a mic stand here. This was invented for me to put my mic stand on top of it. But I could turn around, right, and smack someone in the head with it, and it becomes a weapon. So it's like, whatever you in life, you use it for good, you're going to get the good out of it. So that's my take on it.
Yeah,
so, because it's completely changed, and you have to learn to roll with those punches. You know, you have to develop and roll over and see. Instead of sitting there going, oh, well, you know, back in the 90s, what we used to do this, and we used to, you know, put some coal in our guitar to keep it running, you know.
It's like a rock and just play it, you know.
It's just like a guitar. The design of guitar hasn't really changed, you know. You go to Africa, and I remember being in Soweto in Africa, in South Africa, and Johannesburg, you know, and they had instruments out of like tin cans and blah blah blah. It sounded amazing.
Yeah, so, no, I'm a big believer of that. It's just it's all in the creative mind, you know. It's never it's a cliche, like a true artist never blames his tools, but it is true. And I think this whole pandemic is like putting that under a microscope, you know. It's seeing like it's never been more important to be self-sufficient and kind of go, okay, well,
exactly,
what is it that I do that can survive with all of the variables, you know, gone to shit?
Exactly.
What can I still do at the end of the day?
I mean, I think that's a very, very important attitude. I mean, I think that if I see the big silver linings I have right now is, for the first time since I was like 18, I have a regular schedule. I wake up in the morning, I work out, I have my interviews, I've got a radio show now that I've got to do. And in my afternoon, I spend doing creative stuff and working and writing. And then I finish at 6. And then I go watch Netflix and cook and hang out with my partner. I've never had that in my life. So having that regularity at this stage in my life has actually been quite productive and actually been quite good. And also, if I look on the silver lining, like when I had stuff to do, I would have, like, you know, if I've got to do my radio show things, and I would grab all the time in between flights and in between this and sit on the plane and sit on the bus, whatever, to listen to music and work out my radio show. Now I'll sit down, I've got it all set up, and I'll spend 6 hours straight listening to music, and I'll do that 4 times a week. In the evening, in the morning, when I feel like it. And then I'll spend 2 days thinking about everything. It's like everything I do has got so much more time and energy and quality put into it, rather than trying to do everything. Oh, I've got 2 hours here, let me quickly do this, and blah, 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 bam, 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 bam. Now it's just like, right, let me do this properly. Let me think about this. Thinking time is just as important as doing time. And I've said it from the beginning, man, relaxing time, doing nothing is just as important as doing something, because that's when the ideas kind of ferment.
Yeah, I completely agree. It's that, you know, like working smart attitude, and it's amazing. Like actually, when you slow down, not when you go, oh, you know, not in that sense of like, oh, being so overwhelmed that you can't do anything, but just when you do, you can slow down. It's amazing how much time you can kind of find, like, or like the time that you do have is like spent more productively, creatively, kind of thing, which is the way I see it is, I had to learn Italian a few years ago for this TV show that I did in Italy. So I had to learn Italian. And the first 3 months I was cramming stuff into my head. And then I kind of changed the way that I was doing things. I had different tutors, and they would make me work for 45 minutes and then rest, literally take a nap for 15. Wow.
You know? And then when we stopped working, they said, just go and do something completely different with your brain. Stop thinking about it. And I learned Italian much better that way, because it's the switching off is when the ideas come. But if you're always on and always worried about writing a song and always worried about writing ideas, then you're never really switching off your brain. But usually it's when I switch off and I watch TV program, whatever, and then it's like, bam, where's a post-it note? Write it down quick. You know, so I think that having more time to do things properly, and then properly switching off my brain and doing something completely different, has actually led to a much higher quality of stuff I'm doing. I think the difficult thing is discipline and self-motivation is probably the hardest things that us musicians have to learn.
I feel like musicians, we kind of like we normalize the sort of chaos and the lack of schedule, and it's almost like we live for it in the end, especially when you're on tour, because you know
we love it. Yeah, we love it.
There is that like tour bubble where you don't have to really think about all of those constraints at home. You can just focus on that gig that night every day, and it's amazing. But then it's a kind of suspended reality, isn't it? And I think like right now it's like reality overdose in a way.
Well, it's kind of like I always being in a rock band to me is like I stopped growing at 24. I stopped maturating at 24. I got to 24 and my whole body and my everything was just like, that's it. I'm just gonna stay here at 24 for the rest of my life, and I'm just gonna behave like a fucking teenager or like an early 20s for the rest of my life. And I think that the way that rock music is an industry is set up for you to stay 24 forever. Yeah. And you see like rock stars looking exactly the same for 50 years, because really they stopped like, they got to 24, they love that, and that's great. And I think there's that kind of Peter Pan-ness to being a rock band that's always there. And I love that. I'm not going to complain. I love that. I love still getting drunk, and I love still getting mad, and I love still being stupid or whatever. But, you do mature, so you do it in a different way. But that's why we are in this industry, because we're grown-up children having fun and putting ourselves in a position where we control everything that we do, because we don't want to, sit at a desk and be told what to do by the man, Well, that's why we're not hands.
And you know what? We really are kind of I totally agree. We really are sort of being told by the man though at the moment, aren't we? I kind of don't really want to go into Brexit too much. And then today we've had the PRS announced that they're putting license fees on streamed events and ticketed events online, and it's going to really cripple people who are just wanting to make like a small amount to like 200 or 300 people. So it's kind of like, it does feel like our voices of expression are kind of being caged in a way. But like you say, it's a time for being like self-sufficient, I suppose.
Yeah, and I guess it's I feel like there's a part of the industry, there's a part of this isn't live, is it? Is this live?
No.
Okay, great. I'm just gonna take off I forgot to close down my mail, my Mac mail. So
we can go in and
I've just done that. So I think that throughout history, right, being a rock musician or being a musician, we're always having to fight against the establishment, because they never really value what we do. Because if you can't, because it's like, how do you monetize happiness? There's ways you can monetize happiness, but how do you monetize feel? I mean, I've been working with all this like music software, right? But there's no feel button still, because these are the things that musicians have. We have that ability to make people happy, sad, morose, dark, all these different emotions. And we do it because we love to do it. And the minute you say you love to do it, there's going to be the industry doesn't, the man, the kind of establishment doesn't take you seriously and doesn't want to pay you for it. And this just wants to kind of just let you do what you're doing and we'll enjoy it, but we're not going to help you do that. And there's that in that mentality in musicians and arts, all the way through from theatre to, writing to production to all of the arts. We're always kind of like, you do that in your spare time. You do that after you've done all your serious stuff. Yeah. And I think that that's the attitude that you see towards how we're being treated now in Brexit. It's kind of like we're an afterthought. We have to go and we have to sign petitions and we have to demand to get, just the basic kind of things, because we're not seen as being proper professions and proper things. The attitude is like, just go and do something else then. Go and do something else. It's like, no, actually, you go and do something else because you're doing a bloody shit job, to be honest, Boris Johnson. Yeah. So, you know what I mean? So I think that, you really see the attitude just floundering, and it just feels like with every day, it kind of compounds the idea that musicians are not worthy and not worth it and not important. And the arts are not important because you've got a bunch of people who are doing stuff that is not seen as important as, like, you know, sitting at a desk all day, you know, being in a bank or something like that, you know. So it's I feel like myself is, I'm in an eternal kind of quandary. I mean, I don't want to go on about Brexit, but, you know, even this morning I read another thing about how you know, I'm not going to go into it, but it's a freaking disaster. No one's got what they voted for. And what we're seeing now is what we've been telling people for the last 3 years and 4 years before Brexit is like, nothing's worked out for musicians, nothing's worked out for artists. And now we're seeing the result of that. Now we're seeing the result of, this is what happens when you don't really have a plan for all of society, or for even 75% of it. This is what happens when you don't work. This is what happens when you lie about what you're going to do. You know, and then it comes to it, and then everyone's like, hold on a minute, well, what about orchestras? What about our visas? What about this? What about that? What about small venues? What about small record companies? You know, what about us? Because there is no plan for us. They're playing catch up. And the whole thing of Brexit has, to me, been a bunch of people lying and faking about what they're going to do and how amazing it's going to be and what strong position we're going to be. The hard truth and hard reality is we're worse off economically, we're worse off artistically, we're going to become a backwater that nobody wants to go to because you can't do anything there because it's too more difficult, and it's too much red tape, and it's too much hard work. You know, we're in a really bad bargaining position. Of course, EU are going to turn around and go like, you know, the idea that leaving the EU was just going to happen in 6 months is going to be easy. What a load of BS. So, I mean, and I think musicians, and especially new musicians starting off, are having to carry the brunt of an inept idea that happened. There's actually really pretty disastrous for our country, and then having COVID compound that. You know, it's
beyond. No, it's
beyond.
It is kind of like. So it just still, to me, even like, you know, almost pretty much a year into it, to me, I wake up some days and it's still really surreal, and I kind of don't want to believe it all, you know. But no, I mean, the Brexit thing, it's still going to be unfolding, and no, I mean, I agree with everything you say, and I kind of hate the way that we're sold this. It's almost like we're being gaslit as a nation, saying, "Oh yeah, but
it's going to be great."
Like, not even rewriting history, they're rewriting the present, and like completely denying that it is the shit show it is. Going, well, actually, this and that.
Right. Politics and lies. Politics and lies. The person on the street can feel directly how Brexit has affected them, and can feel directly how a horrible, late, like unplanned response to COVID is really affecting the person in the street. I mean, everybody I know has got serious issues, whether it's childcare or whatever, because there is no proper, decent plan for Brexit, and all this tier business. It doesn't work. You know, you can't have these people are locked down and these people aren't. It's just not how virus works. You know, you know, you're fine because you're in your little bubble there, so you're fine. You know, viruses don't work like that. So anyway, we're sidetracking.
No. I think you can't. I mean, this is the time we're living in, and especially in all of the entertainment, hospitality, music industry. It's like we're on the direct receiving end of it. So, you know, I think if you're not angry, you're not paying attention in a way. But just to go back to, you know, the days of band days and stuff, like how important was it to really play those independent, you know, small grassroots venue for you as a band, and you yourself?
I mean, yeah, we started off at the King's Cross the Splash Club, which was a venue that my band started off as. I was in a band before called Mama Wild, and that was kind of the band where everything got put wrong, you know, and that's where we made our mistakes. And when, you know, I talk about it in my book, that the most important part of my career was the first band I was in. We played to literally dog on a rope. We played to 4 people, played to 300 people. I mean, we played every tiny little venue in and around London that we could get to. Our first tour was in a Ford Escort. You know, we just hired a Ford Escort. We got a van that our manager's parents had, an old ambulance van. We put the gear in there and he drove that. And we did all these little gigs around London. Because, you know, being a rock band, there is no fast way to being good.
God, no.
You just have to gig and gig and gig and gig.
Yeah.
You have to rehearse a lot, and you can rehearse till you're blue in the face, and then you go and do a proper gig, everything falls apart. That's where you learn how to be a great rock band, and that's how you learn how to be a good musician. So that's how, if there wasn't, and it's not just for me, it's all the little bands in our little scene in Kong's Cross, about 10 bands that were there. Feeder, Rob Ultra, Skunk Anansie, Mama Wa before Skunk Anansie. And also playing in front of all the other bands and learning, and it's just, it took 2-3 years of being in little bands and doing all those little venues up and down the country to get good. And as I said before, there's no fast way to getting good. And if you are not prepared to do those 3 years, those 5 years of like slogging your heart out, playing and get little venues and little venues and little venues, everybody thinks that bands just come out of nowhere and amazing. It's like, yeah, you have a single and it goes crazy and you become huge. But behind that is 5 years of solid work, eating beans, having on no money,
Yeah, totally.
If you got 10 quid for paying a venue because you've got 15, 20 people in there, that 10 quid went a long way in those days. So it's kind of like small venues and independent venues are the lifeblood of good music. And Britain, one of the things I know, touring a lot, is British bands tend to be much better than bands in other countries. Yeah. We are really good at music, and we have been good at music for decades. British music has influenced every band on the planet, and it's because we're really good at it. Why are we really good? It's because we have a network of independent venues. It's because we're a bit more open and diverse. So we let other influences come into our music. And we actually, we churn things up, and we're always trying to create something new. British music is about trying to be different, trying to be exceptional. We're not about, you go to America, and I'm here at the moment, everyone's trying to do what they think has been a hit already. So, the minute you get Billie Eilish, right now there's about 20 people doing the sound of Billie Eilish instead of trying to do something completely different. Well, in England, we have a mentality of, oh yeah, Oasis is massive. We're not going to try and be Oasis. We're going to try and be Blur, or we're going to try and be Echo Belly, or we're going to try and be Skunk Anansie. We came out at the same time, and we were like, we're not going to be like anyone else because those bands are already doing it. And that's what British music does. But you learn that by playing millions of independent venues and doing all those little gigs, and they're always fun to go back to. And I'm talking about as a band, right? But I'm talking now as a punter before I was in a band. That's all I did. Every night I was going to see another band.
Did you spend a lot of your pre-performing, how would you say it? Bands?
Look, I've got down to Camden, about 4 or 5 bands, Barfly, all those bands. I used to, every day, every weekday, every 4 days of the weekend, I was going to see another band because I was just jealous. I'd go and see another band and it would hurt me because I wasn't up there on that stage. And to me, going to Barfly, which was a tiny, tiny gig, and seeing it crammed and packed, I was really jealous because I want to be up there. And I was always going to these little gigs and seeing all these little bands. And I was always looking at these bands like, I'm better than you, But, we were there supporting them. But before I was in the band, I was just jealous of everybody else. And so as a punter, it's kind of like now everybody's like, they get all these bands from watching them on the internet. But really, when you get to a certain point, if you can't play live, right, you're going to get slaughtered at a festival. Because the festival season, you have to go on stage, and if you haven't been playing or you've been doing little gigs, you're going to get slaughtered because it's like we go out there to kill everybody else.
It's a massive learning curve in at festivals because they just take no prisoners, and they are like band after band after band, drunk out of their face. It's like entertain us or
big sound, big drums. I remember there was this point in kind of like early 2000s where festivals started putting on a lot more pop bands.
Yeah.
And they come on, and then it will be like they're just like singing like this, and they got these speakers. They won't be like, because they were ready for, they're used to doing TV and money. And it's a different thing when you go into it. You got to use your arms, you got to use the space and whatever. So I mean, it's just, it really hurts me when I see all these little venues kind of closing down, because I'm just like, you know, we've got to be really careful, because that's the reason why British music is so good. And I travel, as I said, I travel a lot. And if they're not there, and we don't have that network of getting it wrong, because the most important, I started talking about being in my memoir before Skunk Anansie. That's where we got everything wrong. We got so many mistakes in that band, but we didn't know it until we got in front of people, and then we could feel what our mistakes were. Yeah. And so that band was the reason why that set the rest of my life up. Because when we started Skunk Anansie, we didn't make all of those mistakes, because we'd been playing all those little venues up and down the country, all the way up to King Tut's in Scotland, and you know, all these little places that we've been playing. You know, it's the reason everything I've got has come from playing little venues all those early days.
So you just nailed it. It's so important what you've just said, you know, and I'm really glad that we had the chance to talk, because it's really great to hear you like say it and put it out there. And like, to me, you've always been someone who really kind of smashes the stereotypes as well as that, you know, and just being informed and articulate and having your eyes open. It's you know, I just, in a world where a lot of people, like you say, are trying to be someone else, like you're just you. You're just like, you know, the
thing that drives me crazy, right, is British music is the best in the world. You know, there's lots of other biggest, but we're the ones that really come up with the ingenious acts that then become huge, whether it's Ed Sheeran or whether it's Adele or whether it's Stormzy. You know, we just keep coming up with these fresh acts, and it earns the country billions of pounds. Yeah, it's not like we ain't doing nothing for the country. You know, money. Exactly. You know, we're one of the biggest industries, and you know, the disrespect we get is enormous. It's like, well, here we are. You just treat us like we're kind of like, you know, over there, getting on with them, while we're earning the country billions of money, coming up with this fresh thing, giving it British music and giving the whole image of England. No, with this tiny little island, but we have this massive credibility and respect because we just come up with so much ingenious stuff. But that's because of the investment that we've had, that we've created. And now we're just been, it's like in 10 years time or 5 years time, you know, if we're not allowed to let British music grow in the way that it's going to grow, we're going to be behind. We're not going to be one of the world leaders in terms of music. Yeah. I mean, and that's all those kids that ain't going to be able to do what they want to do. Because of, you know, Boris Johnson and Brexit.
No, it doesn't really bear thinking about. It's like, imagine if Brexit had happened at a time of the Beatles and the Stones, where, you know, or you know, if the pandemic had happened in the year of I don't know, Woodstock or something. It's kind of like all these incredible things couldn't have happened.
Everybody knows that the reason why Beatles got so good is because they went and played in Berlin and got all dark and dank and edgy, and they did 4 gigs a day. They went to Europe. Now, we couldn't do that because we now can't go to Europe for more than 3 months without, you know, we can't, we're taking whatever. Exactly. So Skunk Anansie in those first tours when we used to tour around Europe, that taught us so much, you know. Yeah. So it's
well, I mean, we've just going back to, we touched on your radio show. Tell us a bit about that. You now present a show on Absolute Radio. Yeah. How are you finding that? It's brilliant. I've listened to some. You're like a natural. It's really cool. Man.
Yeah, no, it's really fun because I did a thing with them last year where I think the year before, 2019, and they remembered me from that because I was talking about this song that really changed me. You know, it was this thing about pick a song that that really meant something to you and talk about why. And for me, it was electronic Getting Away With It, because I remember when it came to the chorus, whatever you do is clear to see, I love you more than you love me. And I remember I was dancing with this girl that I was really in love with at the time. And I looked and that lyric came over and I was like a fucking light bulb. sorry I swore, but it's like a light bulb came. I was like, oh, that's what's going on here.
Oh,
I think if ever there was a song that just explained the situation personally, and that moment taught me so much about why songs matter. And I was just like, oh, that's what's going on. And then from that, they said, would you come back and do like a 10-week series? And I was like, yeah, let's do it for fun. And then I did 10 weeks, and they said, will you come back and just be our presenter? And just like, so now, and it's a perfect thing to do in a lockdown because it actually takes up a lot, you know? Yeah. Because I play a lot of classics, but I love to match that with brand new artists who I think aren't getting any radio play. Yeah. So I've just
important as well that those artists get that platform.
Especially bands, you know. So I've been bringing, because there's not pop singers, there's not soul singers, there's not a lot of rappers, a lot of grime people and bashment. And I just thought I would concentrate. It's a rock station anyway, so I just thought I'd concentrate on new singers, new artists, singer-songwriters, as well as like, you know, I'll play Lenny Kravitz and Depeche Mode, and then I'll play D's and, you know, Death Rays, Chats and Julian Baker, and, you know, like mixing it all up. So
I love Julian Baker.
Yeah.
Stuff.
So
when is it on? So we can hear it.
It's on 10 to 12 on a Sunday night on Absolute Radio, The Skin Show. Imaginatively named The Skin Show. Yes, and it's on demand as well. It's on their app, it's on their website. Yeah. And we go on at the same time online. I'm on Twitter because it's pre-recorded because of COVID. So I'm also on Twitter, having a bit of a Twitter party, laughing and joking with everybody, taking a piss.
That's one of the nicer things about social media. I think it's actually become, I mean, that's a whole nother interview as well as the Brexit files, but like, you know, social media, it's like, it's a bit hit and miss. It can be really a nice place and it can be just a toxic pit of shit, to be honest.
I think especially since COVID, I think that some of the kids just sitting there waiting and trying to find whatever negativity they can find. I mean, I was just watching a fashion show that my friend did for Fendi, Kim Jones, and then people like bitching about the earrings, and you're like, well, you know, he's reinvented a classic. Who cares? But he's actually a mature show, and you're bitching about the earrings. And I'm kind of like, I think that as we started off this conversation talking about that, it's what you use it for, you know. And I think that I have my way that I use it for, which is for positive things, for good things, for encouraging people, supporting things that I think are really good. I use it for political means as well, you know, things I've got to say, you know, I'm a mouthy bitch, so and that's what I use it for, you know. And I don't need to be on social media 24 hours a day. I don't need to like take pictures of my breakfast, you know. You use it for what you use it for that works within your life. So there might be one day I put 3 pictures up and then I don't do anything for a week. You know, I dictate what I do to social media. Social media does not dictate what happens in my life. It's like my tool to be used for myself. Really I don't want to see it as a tool that gets used against me. It's a tool that I use.
No, I can. It's kind of the great, you know, perfect attitude to have towards it, really. What's next for you? Like music-wise, what are you looking forward to, and what's sort of exciting you at the moment?
I've got a wall full of projects here. I've got 4 musical collaborations. So 1 individual thing that I'm doing, and then another 4 collaborative projects that I'm doing. What I've discovered is that I'm a bit late with all of them, because what I've discovered is I've got to record and just write and do everything myself in my studio. Working virtually, it's okay for a minute, but I've discovered after trying things that for me it's easier to learn how to do things myself. So I started off basically just this month I've been learning software, setting up mic sounds, and just recording things myself and writing things myself, and then sending them to people. And that way it works better, rather than trying to then be on their Zoom and I'll be on my Zoom trying to, you know, come up with ideas at the same time. Now I just, everybody's different, isn't it? Everybody's different. I've discovered that that's the one doing. So I've got like 4 projects, and then just lots of little things that come in that are kind of happening last year. I mean, I don't know what's going on with touring. It doesn't look good. So that's also what made me think, yeah, you know, I've just got to do the stuff myself. You know, what am I going to do? You sit and moan, or I'm going to...
So we can do that first and then get on with it.
Yeah, you stick stuff up the arse and get on with it. And, you know, I think it's also good, like, you know, to have days when you just don't do anything because you just think, I'm in a bad mood. I'm not doing anything today because I think it's just going to turn out rubbish. I think that's a luxury of COVID. You know,
I think forcing yourself to sort of, you kind of have that guilt, especially at the moment, like if you're not working every single day at something or producing something at the end of the day, you kind of get that anxiety. But I mean,
it's I've been finding that what I've been discovering, and so my last point is just like, I tend to do the things that are fun first.
Yeah.
And so I'm realizing that, these things are not fun. This is not working. I'm not enjoying that. So I'm going to do it this way. Learning software and learning stuff is really fun. And what's not fun is doing other things. And so I think it's also kind of narrowing down how you individually like to enjoy your day. So, you know.
Yeah,
a lot of things. I've made myself busier than I would normally be because I'm one of those people. If I haven't got things going on, I think I'm wasting my time.
Same, absolutely the same. I think that's why I sort of struggled with last year, because there was this, I feel time is so precious to us, and you know, to take things for granted, and to be sort of our hands, you know, metaphorically tied last year. I just thought, oh God, you know, there's going to be a time, you know, in 20 years, you know, 30 years, like, well, I'm going to want that year back, and like, what can you do? It is how it is. So
I mean, I think the first thing I did was nothing. I did nothing for 3 weeks, and it was great. And then I was like, okay, now this can't keep going on. Now I had a holiday. I did nothing but eat shit and watch Netflix for the first 3 weeks, and then after that, I kind of got myself back into doing some work.
Yeah. Well, look, I can't wait to be able to see you on stage again, and for us to all be, you know, be able to hang out in the 3D. And I wish you luck with everything, and catch your radio show. And
thank you very much.
I want to say thank you so much. It's been wonderful talking to you.
My pleasure.
Yeah. All right. Take care. See you soon.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.